Welcome to Alien Theorist Theorizing. We got a special episode for you today. Shadows in the Desert. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're welcoming to the show Derek Hayes from Monsters Among Us and David Flora from Blurry Photos with the upcoming documentary Shadows in the Desert. Welcome, dudes. Good to see you.
Hey, what's up, guys?
It's been a while. I think AlienCon 2019, I think, was when we all...
Yes.
Was it 2018?
We were all different people back then.
Oh my God.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Go back in a heartbeat.
It was like 30 pounds ago and 2 inches of my hairline, probably.
Oh, yeah. At least 2 inches for me, yeah.
You know what's sweet? Okay, this is a conspiracy. I don't want to go too deep on because I think it's touching too many topics here. But I just want to bring it up again. The four of us, now the six of us, are beating the odds. In one of four men will have male pattern baldness. Something's going on in the conspiracy world here, right? In the conspiracy crypto world, something's happening to us because
we've been
every
infected.
single one of us, you talk about this stuff, hair's gone. I don't know what's
6
going
for
on.
6. You know who has a head of hair, though? Brent Hand. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
That's
sure.
it.
He does.
He's the only one.
Glorious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking
I
guy.
once
Can't grow facial hair to save his soul, but
Yeah.
Traded in a heart.
David over here with his majestic mustache is always just excellently coiffed.
Amazing.
It's
thank you.
incredible. Incredible.
Anyways, yeah, you guys got yourselves is it your first documentary, at least together?
It is, yeah. It's our first film project, I guess. I worked in film in a prior life, but none of that was mine. It was just a company I worked for. This is the first one that, that we created ourselves, and it was quite the undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
Shadows in the Desert. It's a great title, number one.
Oh, and the poster, the art.
Yeah,
awesome.
you got
Yeah.
the marketing's on point right off the start here.
Yeah, because
We had plenty of time to work on the marketing.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to
This is
say 'cause
5
we got
years
an
in the
email.
making, yeah.
we had an email,
Yeah.
I think, from 2 years ago being like, hey, when we get this, can we promote it?
Like, sure. Yeah.
Like,
They
yeah.
kind of forgot about it. And then
We were excited. Yeah. I was like, when you emailed us about this again, I was like, do we just get back? Did we go back in time?
Yeah,
Did we
did we?
like time slip? What happened
We got the old circling back.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. 2 years later. It might have already happened to you guys, just forgot about it.
awesome. Yeah.
So what
You guys
happened?
were like 147th on the list for us to talk
I felt
about.
bad. I was like, did we miss it? Did it come out? We missed it? Like, fuck.
Idiots.
Terrible people. I was super excited. So you guys went out to it's Shadows in the Desert. You guys took it on the road and you guys went to the Borrego Triangle? Is that what it is?
Borrego.
Yeah.
Borrego.
Borrego, yeah. It's Spanish for sheep, or, the bighorn sheep that live down in this area. That's
Wake up,
what they were
Borregos.
So. Yes.
You should have said that in the movie.
Yeah, should have. Yeah. Damn it, regrets.
Now, what makes it the Borrego Triangle? Because every time we talk about triangles, especially on the show, it's always something bad. Something's going on. Something's missing. Someone's going missing. There's some type of creature. There's a vortex. There's something. So what's going on
Or all of the
down
above.
or all of the above? What's going on in the Borrego Triangle?
All of that is going
All the
on down
above.
there. Quite frankly, there's a lot of activity that's taking place in this little area. There's a state park down there that's called, make sure I get this right, David, help me out here.
Borrego Desert State Park.
There you go. I was literally stumbling on that. Borrego Desert State Park is the name of the park. I've said it 9 million times and somehow blanked on it. But it's a huge park. It's the size of Rhode Island down there. It covers a lot of desert area, a lot of mountainous area. There's a little bit of the largest lake in California. It's that area as well. And located in this area we uncovered was all sorts of stuff, from glowing orbs of light to, ghost stories from the Old West, Bigfoot type creatures, UFOs, military connection, all kinds of weird things. I'm probably missing a handful of things. It seemed like it piled up and piled up. So we started, plotting all these things on a map. And before you knew it, we had like a triangle shape. I'm like, of course, this is going to be a triangle. Everything else is a triangle. So that's sort of where the Borrego Triangle came from. It was just too clever of a name not to use. And coincidentally, a lot of the activity formed that shape anyway. So it was pretty easy for us.
Now, after you guys gave us an advanced screener, and it's not just, you guys didn't just shoot this on your phone. This thing looks good. You guys, congratulations. This is fucking awesome.
It was
Thank you.
phenomenal. Yeah. One of the questions I had really quickly, I don't want to give too much away because the documentary is awesome. But there was a copy of Desert Magazine that was gifted, and I noticed there was only one copy. How much issues did that cause? Was there a riff? Is that why there was such a delay?
That's why I'm living in Colorado now.
I keep trying to visit David, and the addresses he gives me just random houses. He doesn't live there. Actually, yeah, it's really weird because I cannot find another copy of that. David has the copy because he was going to scan it in, and he's had it for years now.
And he has never scanned it.
He's never scanned it. He's never done anything with it. He just sleeps with it at night. No, I've been looking on eBay. I've been contacting people with collections, trying to find another copy of this, and I cannot find one. Last week, my wife actually gave me the full year, it's like a hardback edition of that magazine, and it's inside there. But that's not really displayable, so the search continues. But yeah, that was a pretty cool gift. We were really excited about that.
Yeah, now that issue of the magazine now it's significant because it has one of the first like confirmed or published reports of one of the paranormal activity, like paranormal creatures, denizens or whatever of that area, right? The Sandman is that correct?
Sandman.
Borrego Sandman, they called it. Yeah, they in the issue it says the abominable Sandman of Borrego.
That's awesome.
And it's an article written by I think an ex-Marine who was out there just kind of trekking around and found footprints, and then had another encounter where there was some rustling in bushes or something. I don't know. He tied it all together, but just out there in the middle of the desert in the dunes and stuff. And so that kind of laid the groundwork for opening up the door to the rest of this amazing stuff that happens.
And that was from all the way back in 1964. So these stories have been around for, much longer than that, but at the very least that long.
So like when I think about this creature's been described somewhat like a Bigfoot, right? A bipedal, when I think of, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the last place you'd think that they would be living would be in the desert.
Exactly.
Like it seems like it's kind of inhospitable, right? So what's unique about, the Borrego, abominable Borrego man or whatever? Like, how does he survive here? Like that's right.
Well, to be honest, there are a lot of legends from this area. I'm in Southern California, not too far from the park and the Triangle, but there are a lot of legends here. The Zoobies, Zoobies. Make sure I get that right. Zoomies are what cats do. Zoobies are the it's like the San Diego area.
The technical term for it is zoomies. Yes.
Right.
It's a very technical term. Yes.
I don't know, but me picturing Bigfoot with zoomies is
that's
terrifying.
There you go. What's that noise?
Yeah.
But east of San Diego, there's the Zoomies there. I did it again. The Zoobies there, and then the Mountain Devils was another name. So essentially, this area it's a higher elevation, so they get more water. There's trees and stuff. So the triangle in the park itself is kind of divided into two sections. There's the higher elevation that's 7,000-8,000 feet. They get snow and everything down there, and then the lower desert regions. And what we sort of theorized, I guess, I'll use the word, is that this creature, if it does exist, sort of migrates between the higher and the lower regions of the park. And in the summertime, they go up top, and in the wintertime, they go down to the valleys. And that's where the sighting, the dates of the sightings seem to align with that anyway. So that's our theory going into this, that if something does live there, that it's quite possible that it migrates frequently to chase the weather, essentially.
Well, and there's big predators in that area too, so it wouldn't.
It
wouldn't be that wild to say that there is a big predator that does that, because there's big cats and stuff in that area.
Yeah, we have black bear that I don't know how often they're down in the desert flat area, but they're up in the mountains for sure. And then mountain lions, the bighorn sheep, deer. There's a lot of larger mammals in that area. Coyote.
And it's not that far off to think of like a Sasquatches or desert Sandsquatches, I guess you can call it. Sandsquatches. And there are reports of, large hairy bipedal creatures living in the desert, or even, it fits in with some theories that they are, or them being migratory at some point. Like they have there have been reports where people say like, oh yeah, like they come in through here like every every year there's like, a couple of them come through the certain areas or whatever. So it's like, yeah, to me, it makes a lot of sense that if you had a creature that would be like, yeah, move up and down if it's intelligent enough and just to follow the weather, the food, where it goes. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. And the footprints in the magazine article and the ones that you have in the documentary, like those ones look pretty interesting. Like you got something like physical evidence of something stomping around out there. Like, made me think. I thought it was just.
There's been some evidence collected over the years. Yeah,
at least back in the 60s.
Frankly, when we got out there, I don't know. I can't speak for David, but I didn't put a lot of faith in the idea that Bigfoot could live out there. Sasquatch, whatever. Yeah. It just, to me, it just didn't seem hospitable enough for something like that. But once we got out there, realized how big the space is, first of all, and that it, a half a day's walk and it could be at 8,000 feet, running water, pine trees, it's just a forest up there. Once we realized that, and then we started looking at the dates of a lot of these sightings, if the sighting was in July, then we know it was in the mountains. And if the sighting was in December, we know it was down in the flatland somewhere. And it really aligned that way. So it was really interesting. And I'm not going to sit here and say I believe the Sasquatch is there, but that needle's moved a little bit for me, I'll be honest.
Yeah, that idea by itself, the migration really moved the needle for both of us. And then we talked to one of the park biologists, I guess, or he works out of what's the place he works out of, Derek? Jim Dice.
It was the Borrego
the Desert Research Center or something like that.
I believe the Desert Research Center. That's what it was. Yeah, but he's a botanist for the park. So he told us about a ton of, and we included some of that in the film, about possible things they could use to eat. And, it was things you wouldn't even think of, like mesquite pods. And he said the barrel cactus could be used. It's not tasty, but it could be used. And, of course, the insects that are running around, the lizards, the smaller stuff. And, I mean, he listed out a ton of stuff that we were just like, wow, all that? Like, that's like a smorgasbord in the desert.
Well, no kidding. Yeah. If it is like some type of ape, right, like an omnivore, eating, if you could catch a squirrel, catch a fox, catch a coyote, catch anything, eat cactus. I mean, the desert heat is inhospitable, but, freezing temperatures are probably more inhospitable. And if Bigfoot lives in the middle of the mountains in BC and it's minus 40 and he can survive, like, why can't you survive in the desert? Just find some shade, catch a breeze. Like, so when people say, like, there's no way a Bigfoot could live in the desert, like, why not? There's stuff to eat.
Well, there are a lot of caves and stuff down there that we found. Mud caves. There was a place called the Wind Caves that kind of looked like where the Flintstones lived. So there's definitely places that you can get away from the heat for the day, and then essentially you just become nocturnal.
Come out at night.
Survive that
just
situation.
Like, just like any predator in the desert.
The other cool thing, too, is that those rocks retain heat through a good portion of the night, because we camped out there for filming the Kickstarter, and we camped out pretty close to the base of one of those hills around there, and you could feel the heat coming off the rock after the sun went down. Do you remember that, Derek?
Oh, yeah. I mean, heat is the name of the game out there. It was in the 120s while we were shooting. I think it got up to 122 at one point while we were out. Actually, a couple different days it was 122.
Is that when you guys switched to cowboy hats?
Well, I mean, everybody makes fun of the hats, but those were like a survival item.
That's what I was saying. I was like, you guys, you went out there, you had the regular ball cap out, and then you guys switched to the cowboy hats. I was like, it's hot.
Yeah.
I was going to ask.
I'll be honest, they do a lot to keep that shade on you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say, for as hot as you guys were describing it, I was like, listen, not a lot of sweat marks in those shirts, boys. Like, how often are you having to change those? You gotta stay
every hour on the hour.
Yeah, we just had these pads that we put under our shirts. No,
it's all visual effects. I think took it out in post.
Well, honestly, what happened is we passed the point of sweating, and we just didn't sweat anymore.
There's nothing left.
Dehydration and heat stroke had sunken in by that point.
We did.
It was a stinky, sweaty shoot. That's for sure. And we did get heat stroke while we were filming one day. David
Wow.
and I both got it.
Yeah, you guys are out there
Yeah, he
hiking
got it
out in
worse.
there. Yeah. Like you guys are hiking into some of the places, like some of the shots, and like you had the one guide showing you around to the sandstone caves and all of that stuff, and I was like, that's a hike. Like that's
This,
It didn't even. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Well, yeah, this is when we were shooting the Kickstarter trailer, is when it hit us the hardest, which is good because that was the first thing we did and we could learn from it. But I think we were out there for about 4 hours, just hopping around the boulders, walking around the hills there, trying to find some, things here and there, some of the petroglyphs and things. And it was, I think, October or November. It was sometime where it wasn't 100,000 degrees during the day. There was a breeze. It was pleasant. And so we were out there, we got water. And then we went to dinner after that, and we all just kind of sat there and stared at our plates. And then Derek throws up. I'm dry heaving back at camp. Once we kind of cooled down a little bit, then we shot the trailer hey guys, give us money for this Kickstarter. We're both dying.
Pre-record purge, right? You getting all skinny.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Right.
This is, and this will be great for your listeners, but this is, I think, when we woke up one day.
117.
I took a screenshot. 117.
That's when you woke
That was
up.
when we woke up, went outside, and started.
Immediately back inside.
Wait,
We woke up and just went home.
are you tenting it, or do you what? Are you sleeping in a tent? So
Well, the first
117
shoot,
degrees?
yeah, we did.
Yeah, the first one we did.
We did stay in a tent for that. It was just one night, but the other one we rented out this big Airbnb that had air conditioning.
Yeah.
That went down to I think 86 or something, and it felt like
That's as
I don't know.
That's as
Alaska.
cold as they can get
It
it.
felt great. That's as cold as it would get.
I kind of feel like you guys are fibbing a little bit because I feel like you went in a tent and then you found out that there's an 8-foot wandering skeleton in the desert, and you're like, okay, well, we're not doing this.
That thing is straight out of Scooby-Doo, man.
Yeah.
With the lantern and
true.
everything. That's come on.
Yeah.
love
There was a lot of miners' legends that we found there because it was a big prospecting area. So there's a blurred line between what was made up to keep people away from their claim and what's actually roaming around out there. But we did hear a skeleton with a burning lantern in its chest. We heard that story from a lot of different places. So that was one that persisted for a long time.
Oh, that's cool.
Burning lantern in its
Well,
chest.
It makes sense when you think about it too, right? Because with all the gold mining and stuff in that area, they're thinking about all the death and misery and stuff. Obviously, there was the few people that hit it rich and stuff, but all that negative energy that's been imprinted in that land, it's definitely got to be paranormally activated, 100%.
And that there's a stagecoach line that runs through there, and that's where a large portion of these ghost stories come from. And you're right, those things were hit a lot, robbed. People were in the film. People would get sick and they would die along the way.
Dysentery.
They all dysentery and they all succumb to the fate.
Color it out.
And then the greed aspect. People went crazy over greed and killed each other.
Couple murders.
Then there were some weird stories in the Warner Springs area where there was a watering hole and bodies just kept turning up, and it eventually became known as Dead Man Hole. And the weirdest part about it was that none of their stuff was stolen. They still had their money and guns and watches and everything on them. So it's just wild. So yeah, there's a lot of negativity going all through there.
In the documentary, one of the things I loved is you had someone talking about the skeleton. They're like, I don't think an 8-foot skeleton would be out there. And then in the next shot, there's a beautiful shot of you guys talking to the park ranger. And David, it looks like it was shot. Peter Jackson shot it, and it looks like you're talking to hobbits. You're towering over. You look like you're over a roof. I was like, they're gonna have the gall to say this thing couldn't exist, and then they're gonna show you on camera.
Yeah, it's he's being an inch taller than
right
David.
there.
It's
It's right there.
huge.
That's him. Put a lantern in his chest. That's it.
God damn it, you cracked the code.
In
This
real life,
interview's over.
it's 8 foot. In real life,
What are you
David's
going
8
to
foot
tell us
three.
about your gold claim that you got out there?
It is Scooby-Doo. You just unmasked
I'm already-
David.
I'm already on kayak.com looking for flights to come and kill you fuckers.
Would have got away with it too.
But speaking in the chest and the light, it's an interesting, the light in the chest, because I found that interesting because of all the other like kind of light phenomenon in the area. I was kind of like, oh, maybe that's kind of tied in with the legend and stuff, and people are already kind of seeing light phenomenon in that area.
That's a good point I didn't think of. There are a lot of reports of just balls of light throughout the desert. There'll be people driving down the road and they'll shoot across the road in front of them. There was a train derailment that may or may not have been caused by one of these ghost orbs. But yeah, I guess if you saw the 8-foot skeleton with the lantern in his chest from a distance, it's just going to be a glowing ball of light. So maybe that's what people are seeing. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I always kind of thought like,
Solved it.
Like someone's like, yeah, that's what that is. It's that giant ass.
That's what it is from now on.
Get you, yeah.
Obviously.
Now, of all the stuff you guys have like talked about on your podcast and stuff, how did you guys come to the agreement? Like, this is the documentary you want to shoot, like this area of all the stuff. Is it, how'd that come about?
Well, I guess it started with me. I camp a lot. You know, I live in Southern California. It's a big recreational area. So my wife and I would go out to the desert and camp out there and explore. And I would hear all these legends of, you know, Bigfoot stories, UFO stories. I'd see the videos online of all the UFO videos captured out there. So anyway, I would go to the bookstore there. I'm like, hey, what books do you have on the paranormal? Do you have a documentary? Do you have a pamphlet? Do you have it? They had nothing, absolutely nothing at this bookstore or anywhere. The visitor center didn't mention any of this paranormal stuff. So I kind of planted a seed in David's head. And after a couple months, we started talking about it. Like, you know, let's do a project out there. And it kind of just evolved into this documentary. I don't know what it was going to be to begin with, but I don't know that it was going to be what it ended up being.
Yeah, because I'd never heard, we've heard of a lot of triangles, but never this one. So it's, especially in this realm, there's like so many podcasts to talk about this stuff, and there's so many documentaries. But so it's kind of not discover, but kind of like present something that's not very well heard of.
Uncover, I guess is the best way to say it. Yeah, because all this stuff existed before we got there, but we just kind of brought it to everybody's attention.
It's more like
once we realized all this activity was there and that nobody was talking about it, it was obvious.
Just made it fit into a triangle. That's perfect. Right?
Just another triangle inside Craig's triangle.
Just squeezed everything in there.
Yeah, we have an ongoing triangle that we've discovered ourselves. It kind of goes across the entire continent of North America. We call it Craig's Triangle. And it's spooky because a lot of these other triangles kind of fall
seem to pop up in
somewhere in it. And we theorize that it may float.
Weird.
Like as the Earth rotates, that triangle might kind of float around a little bit.
It follows the precession of the equinox, I believe. Throughout the thousands of years, it kind of wobbles.
So it's like an ethereal plate tectonics, it sounds like.
Yeah. I like that's a great term.
There you go.
Ethereal plate tectonics.
Craig's traveling triangle. Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff down here. We could have extended this probably. It would have cheated a little bit because it would have made it just gigantic. But Riverside is a place we were considering because there's the or is it am I saying that right, Derek? I'm thinking the Fontana Speedway monster. Is that in Riverside?
Yeah, well, the general area here it's called Inland Empire, and there's a bunch of little communities. Riverside has the Riverside Monster, which was like this lizard man-esque creature that jumped out of a culvert and attacked this guy in a car. Awesome. The Fontana Raceway Monster, Speedway Monster, was this Bigfoot type creature. Well, I'll back up and say,
did he drive like a little car with like his eyes bugging out and like
yeah, like one of those little Shredder cars.
I know that illustration.
Wacky racer for sure.
That's what I'm picturing in my head now.
And there was a drag strip there, and whenever they race the cars, it get really loud, and these creatures would come out of the hills, out of the mountains, and like get up to the fence and just throw a fit, like shake their fists in the air. Essentially because of all the noise. So that became known as the Speedway Monster. And then when when the Speedway went away, the monster did as well.
That was 60s, 70s.
Yeah. And a lot of these legends in the area is the point.
He filed enough noise complaints with the city, got him shut down?
Got them shut down, yeah.
The original Karens.
But we settled on triangle because the Borrego dodecahedron just doesn't really flow
on the same ring.
Yeah.
It's got to be triangle.
Yeah, it's got to be a triangle. Yeah, like especially if it fits there. I mean, you got to hit it's searchability, baby.
We're not making documentaries for D&D nerds. Like,
You can take your icosahedron and shove it.
You're like Borrego Square. I don't know what we should call this thing.
We had that conversation. Like, what is this thing? And then one of us said Borrego Triangle, and it just stuck. I mean, that's what it became at that point. But it's just a weird area. I mean, it just feels weird when you even drive into town. It's just, you get out of the car and like, what the hell is this place?
It's one of those, because it's you showed some shots of the town. I went on their website. Was it the Borrego city? Their treasury department or whatever put out a thing, and just looking at it, it's like one of those little stopover towns that you're kind of like, when you think of Southern California, you think of kind of like the road culture, the kind of like the stop in the kind of what are they called, the tourist traps, like a little tourist trap kind of culture that you go through, and it reminds me of that, which is always something that I feel like appeals to a large crowd of going into there, because like we talked about the Integratron, which is also in Southern California.
Oh, yeah. That's right in that area.
Yeah. So it's like all of Southern California, I feel like it's just this weird kind of like area that just has some kind of energy, whether it's the uniqueness of each, like the unincorporated towns that are kind of out there where everybody kind of these just like these unique people and the cultures kind of congregate all together and just like create this strange kitschy culture. It's just always like super interesting to see.
So you've been there, is what?
Yeah, it sounds like. I mean, you're painting a picture.
Yeah. I mean, these are unique little places, and Borrego Springs, which is the center of the triangle, the center of the park, it's not on the way to anything. I mean, if you go there, you got to be going there for a reason, because you're not going to pass by headed anywhere else. So, they do things to kind of lure people in. There's a super bloom usually every spring where all the wildflowers bloom, and they have a lot of metal sculptures of like camels and dragons and stuff that are the size of a house, or the size of a city bus or something, that are really cool. And of course, all the spooky shit that's out there.
Because that town's like right smack dab in the middle of the parks. Like, it's just like, it's right there, which is, you look on the map and you're just like, it's just right there. And you're like, how is this town still here? It's like, according to David Paulides, like, this town should be wiped off the face of the planet. And if it's in the middle of a state park.
Well, if you show up in the middle of the summer, you'll think that, because there's nobody there. Everything's closed down. It's definitely a winter place, but everything out there is just very strange. And, I'm not going to call the people strange, but they live out there for a reason.
We'll call them strange. We'll do it for you. We'll do it for you. Yeah.
I'm Canadian. They can do that.
We're different nationality.
It takes an unusual person to live out in the desert like that.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's a good start.
Now, we don't want to give too much away of the documentary, because it is really good and I want people to watch it. But I just wanted to quickly touch on, you got found some were they cave paintings or cave etchings that kind of seem to show like potentially like a Bigfoot, like kind of looking creature.
Yeah, they were. I go back and forth. I keep forgetting if they're pictographs or petroglyphs.
I think those were petroglyphs. Pictographs are pounded into the rock.
Let's see. These are actually
painted on the rock, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are painted on, and they are like legit hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 years old. And they survive because it's so dry, and they're very remote, and we almost killed ourselves trying to get to a set of them, and so that was an important thing that we wanted to not only show for the culture of it and stuff, but remind people like not to screw them up. They're artifacts, and
no touchy.
Yeah.
No touch. Yeah, do not touch.
And you also established the fact that this area has been inhabited by humans for thousands of years. Like, people have lived out there even before the advent of the air conditioner, and like people were living out there.
They found a way. Yeah.
Back in the olden days, the before times.
I just think that kind of stuff is cool, because it like lives outside of like modern like Bigfoot culture. Like, this, whoever was there before seen something or thought they seen something that looked like this Bigfoot, this Sandman, hundreds of years, if not longer, before the Patterson Gimlin film, Like there was no like it's removed. It's a whole different side of like looking for these hominids.
Well, that was certainly one of the things that drew us out there and drew us to this project was this artwork. Because if you look at it, there's 3 or 4 celestial objects. We don't know what they are, but one's blue, one's like the color of the sun, like a yellow, orangish, and I think there's a red one. They're all different colors, and they're all in the sky together. So we're looking at this thinking, you know, are they depicting UFOs? And then a few feet away, there's these creatures with long arms and 3 fingers with claws on them. I'm like, are these the Borrego Sandman that people are talking about? Like all this stuff seems to align with what's been reported, you know, not only contemporarily, but, you know, for hundreds of years, you know, all the way back to the Butterfield stage line that went through there from, where'd that go? From Yuma all the way to San Diego. And that was the first southern route that was open to a lot of these Western coastal communities out there. So, the point is there's a lot of weird stuff. I just keep hammering that point home. Like you get out there and you just start lifting up rocks, literally and figuratively, and there's all kinds of weird stuff out there.
And you guys weren't just lifting up rocks. Like you guys went out there kitted out for ghost hunting, right? Like you guys took all your ghost hunting equipment out there to search for some of the stuff that not just the flesh and blood, but also, you know, the bit of the paranormal, I suppose, supernatural.
We tried both. Yeah, we did both investigate. We did a ghost hunt at Yaqui Well, which is an ancient well that's now dried up, but there was supposedly a battle there, a fight that broke out. And I don't want to give the story away, but it's now haunted because of said fight. So we went there and did some investigating with the equipment that we had, and then we did a Bigfoot hunt a couple nights later, or a Sandman hunt, I guess I'll call it. But it's weird. I mean, the place is huge, so we just pick a spot. Like maybe there's a Bigfoot here. Who knows? So we kind of feel a little silly out there in the middle of in the woods, hooting and hollering. But they're out there somewhere. So you know, our chances of finding them there is just as good as anywhere else, I suppose.
It's an interesting thing that like that area of the desert, because like even I had a caller last week on Cosmic Channels call in from camping in the desert who described being in a tent and seeing like a bright flashing light that they thought they described it as almost like a lighthouse, that it flashed on them, kind of went away, flashed on them again, and then they all of a sudden felt a presence on the outside of their tent, like in this area, and like they're like, we just left the morning. Like my dad was like, who the fuck's out there? And then they all kind of scrambled together to see, and they're like, no one's there. They're like packed up and left. So it's like people do have these like crazy experiences. Not getting too much of the film, but like what was is that the vibe you get out there? It's just, you're just eerie at night.
It's the thing that makes it eerie is that there's so much open space and there's so few people that any kind of feeling like that comes up when you're alone out there and there's just something off, and it's immediately just the creepiest thing you've ever experienced, because there shouldn't be anybody out there, right? Like, why would they be out there? Why would you be out there? And so, any kind of activity, it comes across as creepy. And it's who knows how many of these stories are just like, oh, these are just some drug runners coming through here. Or like, this is some, 8-foot tall humanoid that glows and has a devil face. I don't know. But
like the drug runners.
we got creepy feelings here and there, right, Derek?
Yeah, it's a dark sky community out there too, so that allows you to see some of this stuff that you normally might not see, especially the UFO, the ghost light, that kind of thing, the things that light up. So that's something you got to keep in mind too. Is once you're out there, you're like, man, it's really dark and really creepy out here, and that's why, because everybody legally has to turn their lights out,
and you can see everything in the sky. Anything that's moving, you're seeing it. So who knows what's what up there.
There was, again, not to blow too much, but there was like daytime UFO sightings as well too, though, wasn't there? There's a popular one.
Yeah, there was one up in Anza called Goldie. And and that was unique for being a daytime UFO. It was a gold-colored orb that would come from the direction of, I think it was Taquish Peak. Is that right, Derek?
I think it was Kuya Mountain, wasn't it? Taquish Peak is in Idlewild.
Come on, man.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Taquish Peak. No, I think it came from Kuya Mountain or Thomas Mountain, one of those two over there. It went back and forth between two mountain peaks.
Well, they said it was Taquish, the creator god, moving. Yes. That was what the Native American legends were about it. But yeah, there's this light called Goldie, and then there's an account we found, and then one of the interviewees that we talked about this a story from the 1800s of a couple going through there and getting stuck at sundown, and right before the sun went down, there's this light, and they called it the Curse of the Dancing Sun. And there's just all these cool legends, and now they call it, and Derek can correct me again if I'm wrong, but Alien Mountain is another nickname for that place.
Yeah, correct.
Alien Mountain. That's great.
I'll check in.
It's nice to see Sexy Dan is the exact same way.
I told him we're a universal.
I'm supposedly Sexy Dan.
So everybody has to have a bearded, smart guy on their podcast. So I mean,
they do.
Everybody got real quiet all of a sudden. That was unusual.
Like you guys talked about, we're not just like paranormal and stuff like that, but also like UFOs. Like you had the documentary is great because you also pulled in a lot of like kind of the who's who of the some of the other paranormal podcast communities and stuff. Like I know you had Ryan Sprague on there, and his forte is UFO. So having him talk about some of the stuff on there as well, it's just like out there in the things, like they had there was mention of Black Triangle UFOs. Like this place is just like, it is just overflowing with paranormal stuff. But it's just, I don't know. It looks so much like you guys are having a good time aside from the heat stroke, but like you guys are having a good time.
Just almost dying,
searching for the mysteries. Like, I don't know. Like look pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a real mixed bag.
Aside from the weather. Yeah. It was a pretty good time.
Like, did you guys have was there just a camera person like following you, or who's like shooting? I'm curious, like just who's shooting the camera?
We did. We
had one camera guy. Looking back, I think that was our biggest mistake that we only hired one. But we had Chris, our camera guy, was with us the whole time, and man, he was a trooper because he's logging this 40-50 pound camera, all these lenses and all this gear. Dressed in all black because that's what a camera guy does.
What a camera guy does.
He's just roasting.
That's his uniform.
I felt so bad for the guy. I'm like, yeah, don't die out here, please. Just don't die.
He had a
You couldn't have felt that bad.
He had a lighter camera, but being a camera operator, he's like, no, I'm not taking the 10-pound camera. I want those 2% better. I want it 2% better. I'm going to take the 50-pounder.
Exactly.
And I know you didn't feel that bad because there was a couple shots in there that looked like they were continuous shots where it would be like you guys walking to a peak and then it was you guys walking to the same peak but way further from up the hill. Which now that I know there was only one cameraman, I know you guys were like, "And why don't you go up there and we'll shoot that?"
Yeah, shoot down, climb to the top of that hill.
He's like, "Oh God."
He had a drone.
Yeah, we might have made him walk a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long was the shoot in the end?
We figured it up earlier. I think we shot about 12 days total, and that's including the Kickstarter trailer, which we used some of that footage in the final film. So we were out there for about 12 days, not consecutively, but broken up over 3 different trips.
Nice. And so you did fully fund it on Kickstarter? That's awesome.
I wouldn't say fully funded, but it was
pretty much
the production angle of it was funded on Kickstarter. Yeah. The post-production part got pretty expensive for us. We didn't know that was going to happen necessarily. So those numbers started adding up, but we made it. We're through the rough part. We're about to the finish line. So it all worked out. It all worked out pretty well for us. Thanks to the Kickstarter, without those guys, we wouldn't even gotten started. Yeah. Only because of them. Yeah.
So
I was curious, how did you track down? There were so many locals that you talked to and stuff. How did you track down all those people accounts? Like, because you said nothing was really written down or anything. So how did you kind of source all these great stories?
It was a little bit of luck. Our field producer Roxanne was able to get in contact with one girl who had a UFO story, and then we, oddly enough, when we checked into our Airbnb there, the guy who was giving us the keys and the rundown and stuff, he was like, "Oh, you're talking about weird stuff? Well, I might have somebody I know that had an experience." And then we got the lady who had the Bigfoot crossing the road.
Oh, really?
And it's like, wow. That was just a stroke of luck. So yeah, it was.
Well, what we ran into out there is that every single person we talked to had a story. Whether or not they wanted to share that story with us, that was a whole nother ballgame. But everybody experienced something strange out there. You would ask them, they'd be like, no, there's this one thing. And they'd clam up and wouldn't talk about it. And we'd have to drag it out of them for 10 minutes. But a lot of people just weren't comfortable talking about it, it seemed like. None of those people made it on camera or anything. But
was there any great
we were really
story?
lucky ones that did.
Was there any great story that didn't make, you didn't get, that you wish you would have, that someone wouldn't either say it on air or didn't work out?
Well, we heard some Dogman stuff, like werewolf-esque creatures that we didn't get anybody firsthand that had anything like that. We really wanted to, but we heard a lot of reports of that. Is there anything else, David, that we searched for and didn't find?
I think we were hoping to get something a little more detail, or at least historical, about Clark Dry Lake Bed, which is where they had this antenna array that was set up, I think, in, let's see, the Navy had that spot in 1938 and used it for test runs for bombers and things for World War II. And then it was kind of given up and given over to the University of Maryland, who built this just giant, 2 mile by 1 mile antenna array to just study cosmic objects and how they work and stuff. But NASA partly funded that, and then they, I guess, did their experiments, or the funding ran out or something, and they pulled it all up, and everything just was left to rot. And now it's just a weird, flat, dry lake bed. And there's a lot of weird stories associated with it, and nobody wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Really
an interesting spot to study, to put that kind of study out in that area, and now you guys have uncovered all this. I wonder if that was known, or at least, some of these legends were known, or when they decided that for the spot, for that array. That's what I was thinking.
What's funny about that array is that they were sending and receiving radio signals to space. They were using it to locate different items and moving objects and that sort of thing. But they were sending a signal up there and then presumably receiving it back. And now, some 50, 60 years later, people are seeing UFOs that seem to, approach that area or take off from that area. We had several reports of people saying they saw craft of some sort take off from the Clark Dry Lake Bed area. And that kept coming up over and over again. So there was something strange going on there. And we really never did get to the bottom of that.
The UFOs are coming to check in and be like, "Oh, nobody's home."
Looks like this.
Yeah. Guys, I know this real cool spot I used to hit on Earth on my way by. Where'd it go? Oh, no, capitalism.
Yeah.
So after you release this doc, you're going to be the next show featured on the Hunt for Skinwalker Ranch, but it's going to be the Hunt of the Borrego Triangle. That's next on the list.
Are you guys gonna have to fight? Are you guys gonna have to fight Travis Taylor?
Yeah,
he's like
duel.
He's on the warpath right now, so I don't know.
Well, I got him if David can't handle him. I'll be your backup, David.
Let's see. How's it like getting oiled up and naked? I'll take him.
He might bring his buddy Dragon with him, so I don't know.
Dragon, yeah, the bodyguard.
So you guys really, when this comes out, say, does Gangbusters comes out here, and you make some back, what what's the next?
What's
thing?
next?
What's next? Do you guys go back to do you go back and better equipped to Borrego, or do you?
We're going to the Arctic Triangle next. That's what I keep saying.
I told David our next one is Hawaii or the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Derek still wants to go to hot, humid ass spots. I'm like, send me to Iceland, man.
I only do it if they have water. That's the only way I'll do it.
And
you guys go to Hesteland and you guys take out the Hesteland lights. I think that'd probably fit.
Norway, yeah,
Norway.
I do that. Yes,
it's a really good documentary, and I'm not just saying that because you guys are on the show. Like I did really enjoy it, and I'm someone who watches a lot of these documentaries. It's got a little something for everyone. As I was watching it, like even my spouse was like, oh, ghost stuff? Like, what's going on here? I've got it right. And then you start getting the monster. She's like, no, not for me. Oh, what's going on? Like, so there's something for everyone in there, which is really nice. And you guys did like just really from another creator standpoint, phenomenal job, guys, on this documentary. I really liked it. What's next? What's next? Honestly, though, like what's the next step for you guys? Because this is going to do.
We've joked about a sequel. Yeah, we've joked about a sequel to this. I mean, it all depends on how well this does. If nobody watches this, obviously, we're not going to waste your time. But there's plenty of stories out there that we didn't even touch on, and a lot of stuff we've discovered since the making of this film. So there's plenty of lore. There's plenty of meat on the bone there to do a sequel if we wanted to do it. I don't know if we're ready. I don't know if we're ready to go back out there or not. And if we do, it'll definitely be in the wintertime.
So Borrego Triangle 2, Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah,
that's been floated around.
I think we were landing on Electric Borrego Lou.
I like that. No, it's true because anytime if like this is unknown, relatively unknown. So if when you put this out and someone sees it close to the area or has a story that they're like, I'm going to reach out to these guys. Like I know something.
Yeah.
Right. There's going to be I guarantee there's going to be a lot of that, like either family stories or personal stories that have happened that maybe they told a couple friends and that was kind of the end of it. Like no one's going to believe me or no one cares or there's nowhere to go with this. And as soon as this comes out and people around that area be like, I seen a UFO. I'm going to call these guys, let them know. Like that's going to happen.
Once they realize other people have experienced this, they're a little more comfortable. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And they see that we're not like getting them on camera and being like, oh, look at this dumb schmuck.
Yeah, you're not exploiting anyone like that. You're just
we're like
just genuinely curious.
These stories.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I mean, everything. Yeah, we're sorry. Yeah, everything was just congratulations. Like this is like great. Like I'm really happy that it came out. I was like genuinely feeling bad. I thought we had missed it. Like I thought we had like came out, and I was like, oh no. But yeah, congratulations, guys. Like,
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. We're really happy it came out too.
Yeah.
It's taken, I think, as long as the filming and editing process to like get everything on the back end and the distribution and stuff tied up and going. So yeah, it's nice to be at this point. And I don't know if we've mentioned it yet or not, but it streams on March 5th.
That's going to be the next question. March 5th and whereabouts?
And you guys can see it on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. And then it's going to come out on other streaming and cable platforms. Derek, what are a few of those others?
Oh boy, you name
AT&T Uverse.
Like your DirecTVs, that kind of thing. It'll be pay per view or rent to own, or not rent to own. That's the couch. You can rent or own
for 3 easy payments of $2.
$99.99. Interest rate's really high, so don't rent to own it. But it'll be everywhere. It won't be hard. It won't be hard to find, but it'll those are the two best places to find it: Apple TV and Amazon Prime.
Awesome. Does the show? Do you have a website or anything for the show, or any type of?
Yeah. Just go to BorregoTriangle.com. BORREGO.
Now,
yeah. We got more questions though. We're not done.
Yeah, what I wanted to ask was, so now that the documentary's done, you've kind of tracked down all these different things. What is your guys' personal view on it? Do you think these are they all kind of connected in this area? Is this something that there's something there, or is this a weird area where it's just a lot of individual strange events are happening?
there a ghost cat? Who's got a ghost cat? Bring out the cat. Bring out the cat. Bring it out. Derek's trying to strangle his cat off camera to stop it from meowing right now.
You don't see big old Izzy. It's feeding time and she's unhappy.
She's had enough.
It's feeding time and Izzy's hungry.
She's gonna start eating your feet here pretty quick.
It's exactly what she's saying on the other side of that door. Exactly what she's saying. It's so much so that I didn't hear the question. I was trying to figure out how to get her to stop yelling.
I was actually looking around the studio. I thought a cat might have gotten in here for a second.
What I was saying is, like now that
do they hear her?
Oh yeah, we
heard.
Yeah. What I was asking is, now that you've kind of finished the documentary, you've kind of put all these stories together, you have more. What are your guys' personal thoughts on what's going on in the Borrego Triangle? Is it all connected? Are these just individual? Is this just like a lot of individual stories for some reason? What are your guys' personal thoughts on what's going on there?
I think for me, it's a perfect storm. Frankly, first of all, you have the desert, so everything's just wide open. You can't hide anything in the desert. So anything weird is going to be right out there in front of you. And it's a place that's so full of history. You wouldn't think it would be, out in the middle of nowhere, but people have been going through this area for thousands of years. So, you have the history, you have that wide open, strange space. It just kind of, it's the perfect breeding ground for these types of stories and that type of attitude, that type of feeling. You go somewhere and you're like, this is just a weird place. It just makes it really easy to fall into that. Now, as far as you break stories down individually, there's a few of them that we explored that I went into thinking there might be something to this. And by the end of it, I'm like, there's absolutely nothing to this. And I think we did a pretty good job of being honest with the audience. If we looked at something and we didn't think it was necessarily paranormal, but still interesting, we covered it and, offered that logical explanation. It might have been this or it could have been that and not necessarily a ghost. But for each of those that took place, there was a couple others that I went in there thinking there's no way this is real. And I left thinking maybe there might be something to this. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of how I left it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily an interconnectedness between everything, but there sure is a lot of weird stories out of one concentrated area. So it seems on the surface like it could be connected. And I'm like Derek, there were things I was like, wow, this is really cool. There's this story and obviously there's some evidence of it and this and that. And then, it comes out like, that's not really the case. And then for the Sasquatch creatures and stuff, you don't think the desert's being very hospitable to something like that. And then we talk to a dude that actually knows what he's talking about. And we see the terrain. We feel the difference in the temperature when you move to a new spot. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, what that I thought was impossible could actually be possible now, So the needle's just kind of all over the place.
Right on.
Now, what was the EMF readings out there?
I kept getting a 0.5, 0.6 on the little thing that I had at Yaqui Well. It would just spike here and there. I couldn't randomly find any
nothing consistent.
Nothing consistent. No good reason or spot that it would happen in. So it was weird, but it wasn't there wasn't enough information for me to come to any kind of conclusion about it.
I don't think you had a lot of success.
Just in enough to
because you weren't wearing all leather, like black leather and like a leather trench coat.
Yeah.
And that heat, Jesus.
Yeah.
Bedazzled jeans, maybe.
Yeah. I told Derek half my wardrobe was going to be like Neo stuff, so we had to get a stretch goal for that.
That's in the sequel.
Exactly. My biggest
Shadows 2 Reloaded or whatever when we fight the Merovingian.
These are all great names. Somebody write these down.
Good thing it's recorded down.
My biggest challenge throughout the whole recording was just reining in David's wants and needs. mustache wax. He wanted horses. He wanted
Man.
Yeah,
formulas.
David looks like a guy who have a huge retainer. Like he wants only the brown M&Ms. He wants,
He had a whole list. Yeah,
I,
15 left boots.
no joke though, that
Not
like
the right
in the
boots, just
pre-planning stages, we went back and forth a lot about whether or not we would do like live action retellings of these stories. Like, were we going to
Oh yeah.
dress up, as the Old West gunslingers who, because there was a story about a ghost horse and rider or the rider got shot, so the ghost horse took off. Before he was a ghost, he was a horse, and then afterward. Anyways, I'm getting it all out of control. But there was this, story of this bandit robbery gone wrong and greed and stuff, and we were like, "Are we going to do like this retelling of it, and we will be actors in it and this and that?" And I was like, "We got to get horses. Number one, number two, we got to ride those horses. Like, we should get some motorcycles. We should go ripping through there on that. Like." And this is all true. I'm not exaggerating. Derek can back me up on this. I wanted to like get out there on horses, and we were just like, well,
Hey, we're available. All right. What do you need? We got IMDb credits. Like, we're ready for this.
Hey, I feel like you guys got the cowboy hats, and then you're like, the horses. Damn it.
spin it all in the hats. Yeah.
You know what? Like, I would have
Blew the
loved to
budget,
see
yeah.
on the ridge. Like, I could picture that in a couple dusters, right, overlooking Man Tracker style, right? That would have been
Love Man Tracker.
sequel, right?
Man Tracker, yeah.
A lot of good ideas for the sequel here.
We're going to set Derek loose with like a 6-hour head start. And then I'm going to come out on a horse after him. And
Yeah.
I would do
Yeah.
that.
And then Man Tracker's coming after both of us.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's called
And then
It's real meta.
Borrego Sandman's going after him. This is
No, it's
So,
that's
like,
great.
I do love that show, though. That is a good show. I haven't thought of that show in years.
Yeah. Dude, I have such a high confidence in myself that I had it all planned out how I was going to not get tracked by the man. In that
Wouldn't
show. I
last
could have
a
done
day.
it.
you'd be tracked so fast. You'd
It
be
would last
toast.
a day.
I tell you, I thought of it all out, right?
Be finding your candy bar wrappers.
Dude, that horse would hear the sticks crack under your feet from a mile away.
You just got to go. There's no stopping.
Yeah.
You
I
can't
actually-
sleep.
Distance is
You
the
can't
key in
stop.
that show.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Man Tracker I thought it was a Canadian show.
It
Was
is.
it? And
I saw it on like
yeah.
the Science Channel or something a
It was
few
that
years
big?
back.
So you guys had the same there was the OG Man Tracker who would actually like lasso people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he didn't take any shits off anybody. Like
No.
he was just like, shut up. I'm doing my job.
What's
He was
doing?
awesome.
Can you get him for the sequel?
He's probably already living out there, I bet.
If anyone could track a Sandman, it's him.
100%.
Sandman Tracker.
There's our
Sean,
there's our next idea.
there's
We
the
just get a
there's
Man
the sequel
Tracker to
right
look for
there.
these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think his
Nailed
name
it.
is Terry Grant is the original Man Tracker. I don't know what he's doing now, but I'm just saying that would make some good material. I don't know what the budget's like yet, right? But just keep that as an idea, right? Bring Man Tracker in, Borrego Desert, see what you can do, right? You're all dressed the exact same. This is gold, baby.
They're like, what are you doing with a shotgun? Like, what are you not doing with one?
All right. It's good.
Awesome, boys. Well, hey, you're not just documentary filmmakers; you're also podcasters. So if no one's heard of your shows, like let the people know.
Go for it,
Well, I
Derek.
run a show called Monsters Among Us podcast. I release every Thursday, and it's a call-in show about monsters, ghosts, UFOs, aliens, anything strange and unusual. We've been going for 8 years now. Every Thursday morning, something like that. Get it wherever you find podcasts.
Boom, David.
Good ones.
I host Blurry Photos podcast. I release whenever I get the research done, which takes for freaking ever. I've been doing that since 2012. And then I'm co-hosting Hysteria 51 with Brent Hand. And I also have a trivia podcast with my wife called Quiz Quiz Bang Bang. And I did a little short stint with a Tom Lyons written podcast called 5 Minute Frights, which is just little narration tidbits here and there. I think I did about 24 episodes of that, and then Tom got tired of writing. So that's what I got going on.
Hell yeah, boys.
Anywhere.
If you have any podcast ideas, David's open. He's looking for.
He's always ready.
I am that
He's
dumb.
got 2 free
David
hours a
Flora,
day. Like he's looking to
podcast
fill 'em.
mercenary.
All right. Well, that's the hour we promised. That's the hour we can do. My beer is empty. So it's March 5th is the release date.
Correct.
We'll make sure to, when this podcast release, we'll put it in the show notes, where to go, what to do. Support the boys, support the documentary. And let's try and get a sequel going. That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on the show. And as we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.